Government must lead wisely. Businesses must innovate responsibly. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Distinguished Rector of Perbanas Institute, Professor Dr. Hermanto Siregar, my good friend. I also recognize there are many prominent figures who are with us today in this beautiful building. Bapak Agus Martowardoyo, former Minister of Finance and also Governor of Bank Indonesia. It is good to handle two important elements in our economy, fiscal and monetary, and you are the man. I recognize also Minister Rifki Harsa, Minister of Creative Economy under Presiden Prabowo Subianto. I recognize Bapak Edi Baskoro, Wakil Ketua MPR. I know well his late mother. Bapak Anggito Abimanyu, my good friend. We've been working together in the past when I was accomplishing my duty in Yogyakarta. Teman-teman diskusi dulu dengan para aktivis. And many others prominent figures in the realm of economy. Distinguished speakers, professors, researchers, practitioners, students, ladies and gentlemen. It is a great pleasure for me to be here at Perbanas Institute. We know that Perbanas is an institution that has contributed significantly to Indonesia's banking, finance, economics, management, accounting, and information technology education. I am also pleased to join the 4th Perbanas International Conference on Economics, Business, Management, Accounting, and IT, Provision 2026. The theme of this conference is timely and important. Integrity-driven innovations, reimagining business, finance, and digital transformation for sustainable impact. This theme speaks directly to the reality of our time. We live in an age of extraordinary innovations, but also an age of deep uncertainty. That is why today I wish to speak about sustainable development, policy, practice, and finance. I will share my reflection not only as a former president, but also as someone who has been involved in global discussion on development, including when I had the honor to serve as one of the co-chairs of the United Nations high-level panels on the post-2015 development agenda, together with President Johnson Sirleaf of Liberia and Prime Minister David Cameron of the United Kingdom. That process later contributed to the global conversations that led to the Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs. From that experience, I learned one important lesson. Sustainable development is not a slogan. It is a moral responsibility, a political choice, an economic strategy, and a long-term investment in the future of humanity. Let me begin with a simple proposition. Sustainable development will not happen merely because we talk about it. It will happen only when we are able to connect three things: good policy, credible practice, and responsible finance. Policy gives directions. Practice turns intention into reality. Finance provides the fuel. If one of these three is weak, development will not be sustainable. Therefore, the real test of sustainable development is not in the language we use, but in the discipline we apply. The world today does not lack ambitions. We have the SDGs. We have climate commitments. We have ESG, environmental, social, governance principle. We have digital transformation roadmaps. We have many declarations from time to time, from place to place. What the world urgently needs is execution with integrity. Ladies and gentlemen, when we speak about sustainable development, we must first understand the global context. The world is not in a normal condition. We know all about that. We are living through overlapping crises, crisis by crisis. Climate change is no longer a distant prediction. It is now a daily experience. Flood, drought, forest fires, rising sea levels, food insecurity, and natural disaster that hit the poor and vulnerable the hardest. At the same time, the global economy is facing fragmentation. Trade is no longer driven only by efficiency, but also by geopolitics. Technology is becoming a source of productivity, but also a field of rivalry. We also see growing pressure in public finance. Many developing countries are spending more on debt service, while the financing needs for health, education, infrastructure, energy transition, and climate adaptation continue to rise. In this global situation, emerging economies like Indonesia, like us, must be wise. We cannot simply copy the path taken by advanced economies. We must design our own development strategy. Open to the world, but rooted in our national interests, market-oriented, of course, but socially responsible, growth-driven, but environmentally sustainable, and digitally advanced, but human-centered. This is the essence of sustainable development for Indonesia. Allow me now to share Indonesia's own experience. During my presidency, Indonesia faced several major tests. When the global financial crisis hit in 2008, Indonesia was not immune. But we survived because we maintained confidence, fiscal prudence, domestic demand, and good policy coordination. We learned that credibility matters. In times of uncertainty, market listen not only to numbers, but also to the quality of governance. When we rebuilt Aceh after the tsunami, we remember that long time ago, we learned that reconstruction was not only about buildings, roads, and houses. It was about restoring dignity, rebuilding trust, and creating peace. Development becomes sustainable when people feel that they are part of the process. That's important. And when Indonesia participated in global climate diplomacy, including the Bali Climate Conference in 2007, we learned that developing countries must be part of the solution. We cannot say that climate change is only the responsibility of advanced economies. But we also must insist that global climate action must be fair, realistic, and supported by adequate finance and technology. I often say, when it comes to our collaboration in combating climate change, rich country, developed country must take the lead. But developing countries, like many other countries like Indonesia, must do more. It is fair collaboration in international arena. These lessons remain relevant today. Ladies and gentlemen, if sustainable development is our destination, then we must be clear about the foundation that will bring us there. In my view, there are three essential pillars that must work together: policy, practice, and finance. Now let me turn to first pillar, policy. Good policy must do three things. First, it must provide clarity of direction. Sustainable development requires long-term consistency. Everyone needs to know where the country is going. Policy uncertainty is costly. It delays investment, weakens trust, and makes transformation harder. Second, good policy must be integrated. We cannot treat economic growth, financial stability, digital transformation, climate action, and social inclusion as separate agenda. They are connected. Third, good policy must be credible. Credibility comes from governance, transparency, and the rule of law. Once again, and the rule of law. In the digital economy, credibility is even more important. That is why I appreciate the theme of this conference, Bapak Hermanto, integrity-driven innovations. Innovation without integrity can be dangerous. It can produce efficiency without fairness. It can produce profit without responsibility. It can produce disruption without social protections. But innovation with integrity can become a powerful force for human progress. That's the first pillar. The second pillar of sustainable development is practice. We must be honest. The world has many good policies, but implementation often fails. The question is why? Because practice is where interests collide, where bureaucracy is tested, where politics meets bureaucracy, where regulation meets vested interests, and where ideal meet operational realities. This is why leadership matters greatly. In many countries, sustainable development programs fail not because of lack of ideas, but because a weak institution, fragmented coordination, corruption, short-term political thinking, and lack of execution capacity. Implementation requires leaders who are willing to think beyond electoral cycles and quarterly reports. Beyond that. Itulah bedanya politisi dengan negarawan. Today, governments are expected to move faster than ever before. Citizens demand quick result. Market react instantly. Social media amplifies pressure, put more pressure. Yet, sustainable development by its nature is a long-term endeavor. This is our great challenge. Therefore, leaders today must have the courage to combine urgency with patience. Sabar, tapi dengan purpose, dengan direction, dan dengan determination. I would like to remind you that the private sector also has a decisive role. In the 21st century, corporations are no longer judged solely by how much profit they generate. Once again, how much profit they generate. Not only that question. Increasingly, they are judged by how they generate that profit. This is a fundamental shift. Companies that ignore environmental risks, social legitimacy, or governance quality may still survive temporarily. But in the long run, trust me, they will face growing pressure from regulators, investors, consumers, and society itself. On the other hand, companies that embrace sustainability strategically often become stronger, more adaptive, and more trusted. Ladies and gentlemen, the third pillar is finance. Let me say clearly, sustainable development will not succeed without sustainable finance. Good intentions alone are not enough. Every nation today faces a difficult reality. Development requires enormous investment. We all know infrastructure, energy transition, food security, healthcare, education, digital connectivity, climate adaptation, and poverty reduction all require capital. At the same time, fiscal pressures are increasing globally. This is why financial innovation becomes critically important. But again, innovation must be guided by integrity. The financial sector must become an enabler of sustainable transformation, not merely a passive observer. Remember, banks must support productive sectors. Must. It is imperative. Capital market must encourage long-term investment. Financial regulator must maintain stability while encouraging innovations. And global financial architecture must become fairer and more inclusive in developing countries. Every time when I was in office, attended G20 summit, I will I always reminded all world leaders not only about global growth, not only about balanced growth, but it is about inclusiveness. No country should be left in a modern world. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me now share one broader reflection. The future of sustainable development will not be determined only by governments, not only by corporations, not only by financial institutions. The future will be shaped by, once again, collaboration. That's why multilateralism is important. Now, country is for itself. G0. Multilateralism, goodbye. It's not a good sign. We have to bring back collaboration, togetherness, and spirit of multilateralism. Universities, policymakers, scientists, entrepreneurs, civil society, technologists, bankers, regulators, and communities must work together. And this is why conferences like Provision 2026 are important. The world today needs more dialogue between policy and practice. Indonesia needs more dialogue and conversation among us. Between academia and industry, between innovation and ethics. Because one of the greatest dangers in our era is fragmentation. Fragmentation in politics, not good. Fragmentation of economies, fragmentation of information, and even fragmentation of truth itself. We must not allow technology to disconnect humanity from humanity. Must connect, must unite. At this important gathering, let me speak especially to the younger generation present here today. Younger generation, you all is our future. I trust you. Someday, you will be able to lead and govern this beloved country for the better. You are entering a world that is far more complex than the one my generation inherited. You will face technological disruption, geopolitical uncertainty, climate risk, demographic changes, and transformation in the nature of work itself. But Alhamdulillah, you also possess extraordinary opportunities. You are equipped well to face your challenge for your future success. You are the first generation truly connected globally through digital technology. You have access to knowledge faster than any generation before you. You can innovate, collaborate, and create impact across borders. However, once again, knowledge alone is not enough. Intelligence alone is not enough. Innovation alone is also not enough. Character matters. Integrity matters. Empathy matters. Wisdom matters. Because ultimately, the future will not be determined only by how advanced our technology becomes, but by whether humanity itself becomes more ethical, more compassionate, and more responsible. Finally, let me conclude with this thought. The 21st century will not only test the strength of economies, it will test the strength of values. I keep saying the importance of values, of principles, of ethics, of moral foundation, and running the government and leading the world. It will test whether humanity can manage innovation wisely, whether politics can think long-term, not only short-term, whether finance can serve society, whether technology can strengthen civilization rather than divide it. But I remain optimistic. I am a cautious optimist. I believe humanity still has the capacity to choose cooperation over conflicts, sustainability over destructions, integrity over corruptions, and wisdom over short-termism. If I could add, country over party. That's important. Loyalty to... There are many politicians here. Loyalty to my party ends when loyalty to my country begins. Remember that. But optimism alone is not enough. Optimism must be accompanied by action. Sustainable development is not somebody else's responsibility. It is our shared responsibility. Government must lead wisely. Businesses must innovate responsibly. Financial institutions must act prudently. Universities must nurture ethical leadership. And citizens must remain engaged and vigilant. If policy is guided by wisdom, if practice is guided by integrity, and if finance is guided by responsibility, then sustainable development will not merely remain an aspiration. It will become reality. I thank you.
Kecepatan informasi dan akurasi data adalah komitmen kami. Satu langkah lebih dekat, satu langkah lebih terpercaya. Saksikan Sapa Indonesia Malam di Kompas TV Channel 11 di televisi Anda.